Welcome back. This is our first episode of the year. I'm Tim Masso. This is Watchbox Studios at the 1916 Company. Sean's on the switcher. We have a live studio audience, and guys, it is great to be back. This evening, we jump into watch movements, we bust luxury watch myths, and I share your wrist shots as well as the Philippe Dufour Simplicity like you've never seen it before. All right, guys, if you enjoy this program, the official after party is and will always be my Instagram. 51,000 strong. Join our army of adherents. 1-minute videos. It's a stripped down version of my YouTube video. You learn everything you need to know when I post the best watches on the platform, including examples that are not publicly listed on our website. So check me out on Instagram where I am Tim_Masso. We have Edward Ledden in the box from Sweden, Decibels, and Mick in Florida, Mark S. from Brooklyn, Watches with Dennis from Kansas, Michael from Manhattan, we got William B., Mateo C., we got greetings from Montana, John Goodman, and Vincent. Hello from Geneva, staying up late with us in continental Europe. I appreciate that. Aaron S., Arto Charles, Christopher H., and Tim Mancuso, I see you in there. All right, guys, viewer wrist shots number 1, instant gratification. Jonathan C. of South Florida leads off with my personal favorite, the Patek 5235G regulator. Sanford B. rolls home, I should say, from his office in Beverly Hills with his Bentley Continental and Vacheron Constantin overseas tourbillon skeleton. The overseas tourbillon skeleton in a Bentley, that's the flex of the night. Okay, Richard C. of Florida shares a rare sight with his Vacheron Harmony dual time. We don't see that model line too often. Alan R. is a man after my own heart with his 1976 Rolex sub and 1962 Porsche 356 watches and wheels. I love them. TAC OW is in Makati Bay on the Red Sea with his Blancpain 50 Fathoms Bathyscaphe Chrono. That is our nature shot of the night, guys. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag at thewatchbox.com to see your wrist on my list. Okay, let's go hands-on with some watches, guys. What's the point of being in a building full of inventory if you never get to show it off? So let's jump straight to a watch that represents the best of the best from Glashütte. From Glass Hut, Germany, we have the Lange S&ouml Zeitwerk minute repeater. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire it up so that you can hear the chimes but also see the jump. See how it knows not to jump the time until it's done changing? So not only is it an instantaneous digital display, but it is smart enough to avoid changing the time display and breaking itself while the chime is active. Now this is a decimal repeater, which is very unusual by the standards of minute repeaters because only a few have been made over the years. So it chimes the hours, the tens of minutes after the hour, and then the minutes after the last tens of minutes. You can also see black polished strikers, circumferential gongs, and because they drive the repeater off the mainspring barrel, that little red dot represents the no-go point at which it will no longer chime. Flip it all over, it's what you expect from Lange. Blazing German silver, stainless steel, blued screws, violet pivot jewels. You've got an enormous barrel with enough torque in there to put your eye out. We've got the second locking lever that buffers the jump of the time from the remontoir system, which is 2 third wheels sandwiched around a hairspring. Every minute, this little locking mechanism unlocks and transfers 1 minute's worth of energy to that hairspring, and then that hairspring is what directly drives the escapement, so you don't have to worry about the huge surge of torque and energy from the barrel damaging the delicate escapement. So it is a constant force device, digital jumping time, and a decimal repeater. Do I have to tell you it's beautiful? I hope not. Okay. We're going to stick with Lange because, hey, we got a good thing going. Let's talk about a model that originally came out in 2011, but as you see it here, 2014, which means it is the Richard Lange Pour le Mérite tourbillon in white gold, now 41.9 millimeters. It's got a sterling silver dial. It's a Johann Seifert scale, so you want to say it's a Venn diagram, but actually the triple overlapping scales are Johann Seifert's doing. Take a look at this. Hacking seconds tourbillon, but let me blow your mind right here. If you don't need the numerals, it will not show the numerals. And so you have an unobstructed view of the tourbillon until you need to see the time. And so it will retract and extend that panel as necessary. The dial is made of sterling silver. Flip it all over. Pour le mérite. You know what this means at Lange. It means a fusee and chain. So you just saw the remontoir constant force device on the Zeitwerk, but Lange has both of the most common constant force mechanisms. Pour le mérite means fusee and chain, and you can see as I wind it, it winds to the fusee from the barrel. You could see, I'll show you to the best of my ability, there is a little chain in there that is 1/2 of a millimeter thick, 15 centimeters long, and strong enough to vertically suspend 2 kilograms. Now as the barrel runs down, it pulls a larger diameter of the fusee, which works like bicycle gearing. As the mainspring loses torque, it gains mechanical advantage through the fusee, maintaining constant force. And take note, the capstone underneath the tourbillon assembly is a brilliant cut diamond, not synthetic, real. This little monster is probably the most feature-dense sub-42mm watch I've ever seen. Now we're going to keep running because I have a spectacular Patek Philippe that might be the most practical watch in the collection. Launched in 2019, this is the 5520P. Now what really sets this apart is that it's well-loomed, it's really well-loomed. It is a dual time, and it is an alarm with a 24-hour format alarm. And so this watch right here, which you can see, is a spectacular little mechanism. Like the pilot's watch, and then on the reverse side, you can see that it has a broad movement, properly sized for its case. And you can see on the dial side, it has a radial date. It also has 2 12-hour hands superimposed. So when you don't need that second time zone, you can close it up and clear it out. And the movement features a minute repeater style striker on its reverse side. Actually, it sounds just like a minute repeater, right down to the use of a centrifugal governor. A very, very impressive watch. Probably of the watches I'm going to show you tonight, this is the one I most wish I owned. Really very special. What a machine. Can't quite get over that one. But I will also say this, that if you want something that's just stupidly fun and spectacular, it's hard to beat a watch that won't even fit on my macro camera. Launched in 2017 in its initial form, and in 2018, as you see it right here, this is the MB&F HM7 Aquapod. It looks like a jellyfish. It also looks like a dive watch. It is a flying tourbillon, a 3-day power reserve, and you can see on the bottom the platinum tendrils of the winding rotor energize the manufacturer caliber inside. Now there's 2 crowns, one for setting, one for winding, and you read the time down at the base. So you can see right here, it is now 7:25, now it is 7:30, now I'm going to advance all the way to 8 o'clock. It is spectacularly luminescent, with lume from Black Badger, and we have this wonderful sapphire capped bezel that allows you to use it as a reference. It's not a true dive watch, though it is swimmable, and it is absolutely massive at 53.5 millimeters across, though it does wear fairly compact on the wrist, and because I know you're not going to believe me unless you see it, let me jump in, throw it on my wrist. I've had football players complain to me that this watch looks like it's going to fit them, and then it turns out to be designed for a skinny guy, which is true. So taking a look on the wrist, you can see this does in fact fit. Again, not a dive watch, but dive watch inspired. It is nevertheless swimmable and superbly loomed. Okay, finally, this is one from the house brand. You know that for the last 2 years we have been the owners of Debunking. Watchbox loved the company so much we bought it. Now this is a 2012 model year launch, DB28, which means it's got the signature spring-loaded floating variable geometry lugs, but it's got a lot more. This is the DB28 tourbillon deadbeat. Now the tourbillon, as you can see, is down at 6 o'clock. It's like a Zenith El Primero, so 10 beats per second, 36,000 vibrations per hour. You can also see it's a double speed tourbillon, 30 seconds per circuit rather than 1 minute. And it's made of white gold, silicon, and titanium, making it the world's lightest tourbillon at 18 hundredths of a gram. Now look just above that, you can see 2 solid gold escape wheels and a second locking lever. So we have 5 hertz down here, 1 hertz up here. It's one of the very few Bethune watches with both center seconds and hacking seconds. And you can see 2 14-karat gold escape wheels make it possible. 14-karat gold is the standard for mechanical gold that will be used on wheels and levers because of its hardness. The finish, you can see, is world-class. It gives up nothing. And the power reserve, in spite of a tourbillon and a deadbeat, is 4 days. And you can track it through the little power reserve indicator that turns from red to silver as you wind it at 6 o'clock. Very, very special. All right, lots of fun there. Let's jump back into the box and see what you guys are saying. Clinical decision. Hello from SoCal. You know I'm glad to see that, guys. Richard Warren saying more people need to understand the brilliance of Tim Masso. I wouldn't claim brilliance, but at least persistence. I've been doing this now for 9 years. And then Stuart saying that watch looks like LAX. It does look like the old terminal at LAX, very true. And then we have Michael D saying a UFO for the wrist, and Rick on watches, our good friend Rick from Chicago, happy to see it in there. Pizza Man checking in from Minnesota. We finally have some snow here. I would have thought you'd have it a lot sooner, but hey, these are warmer days and warmer times. We've got Pete Watch Collector saying love the DB28, and Jens joining in from Frankfurt. Okay, guys. Let's talk about busting 6 luxury watch myths, and they are persistent. The last decade of my life has been devoted solely to expanding the depth and breadth of the luxury watch hobby. As a timepiece retailer, my goal has been to break down barriers, both real and perceived, that stand between watch enthusiasts and their dream machines. While practical limits do emerge as prices and rarity escalate, the path to luxury watch ownership often is shorter and more straightforward than many expect. Herewith, I debunk 6 common myths about luxury watch collecting. Starting with this myth: young people don't care about luxury watches and the hobby is doomed. This sounds a lot like the young people don't like cars myth that I see in the watch community, but let's examine it. Reality: never in the history of watches have so many young people aspired to ownership of a premium timepiece. At a recent panel discussion in Dubai, I was asked by a man in his 30s, probably early 30s, about the imminent demography-driven demise of luxury watches, mechanical watches. Aside from highlighting the irony of a young watch collector making this claim, I noted that the audience for the event was dominated by people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. Technology makes it possible. So follow me here. My formative years as a watch enthusiast teenager in the 90s were frustrated by the fact that most of the hobby took place offline among old men in Europe and Asia. Very little online information existed. Today, the internet makes discovering, researching, and shopping watches easy from almost anywhere by enthusiasts of any age. My primary YouTube channel, remember guys, I've got 2 now, contains over 7,300 individual watch reviews. It features a critical mass of young viewers. 61.3% of my 65,000 viewers a day are between 18 and 44 years old. Blogs such as Hodinkee, A Blog to Watch, Monochrome, and Fratello Watches are dominated by writers in this demographic. Despite publishing over 10,000 reviews, dozens of interviews, hundreds of live streams on social media, even I am still in the tail end of my 30s. Finally, the number of young people working on the technical side of the hobby is surging. While veteran watchmakers can and do practice until they drop dead at their benches, the modern face of watchmaking is a Generation Z or millennial, often female, who received her first exposure to the trade online. Veteran watchmakers like F.P. Journe, Philippe Dufour, and Daniel Roth continue to ply their trades, but a quick tour of the workshops at the major brands reveals how many technical roles are now served by young artisans. At the highest level, which is independent fabrication and watchmaking, Recep Recep'i, now in his mid-30s, stands as the hottest indie watchmaker of the last half-decade. So guys, no, young people love watches. They're not going away. Myth: luxury watches are more accurate timekeepers. After all, they cost more. Reality: cheap watches often keep better time than luxury watches. First, most cheap watches employ quartz timing circuits, while most luxury watches employ mechanical regulators. Although a luxury quartz watch niche does exist, most quartz watches are neither serviceable nor expensive. Despite this, even cheap quartz watches can achieve monthly variance as low as 15 seconds. Now, in comparison, the exacting ISO 3159 chronometer standard for outstanding mechanical watches specifies no more than -4 plus 6 seconds of variation per 24 hours. While some mechanical watches can beat the chronometer standard and even match the accuracy of a cheap quartz watch is accurate to between 1 and 5 seconds per day, or per year. 5 seconds a day is a mechanical chronometer. 5 seconds per year is this washi dial Citizen, a very impressive timekeeper. And keep in mind, this is a watch that's priced in Oris territory. Now, radio watches that receive regular updates from atomic clocks can vary by only fractions of a second per year, about 1 second per century with a cesium atom atomic clock. No mechanical watch can match that, guys. The best way to evaluate accuracy in mechanical watches is to measure them against their own kind. Mechanical watches like the FP Journe Chronomet Optimum, the Grubel 4C Double Tourbillon 30 degrees, and the Breguet Classique Chronometrie 7727 employ bold engineering and novel mechanisms that embody the state-of-the-art in mechanical watchmaking craft. As an analogy, note that Kentucky-bred thoroughbred racehorses remain a billion-dollar industry despite the existence of far faster racing tech in Formula One and NASCAR. As with racehorses and race cars, traditional watches need to be cross-referenced against others of their kind rather than compared to the most modern technology available. Moreover, outstanding luxury timekeeping doesn't have to be prohibitively expensive to acquire. COSC certified chronometers out of Switzerland are available for well under $5,000 there, well under $2,000. More sophisticated chronometers built on the Omega coaxial and the Rolex Chronergy escapement systems can be had for under $10,000 new and pre-owned. Let's see what's going on in the box. Thomas Burnett's in here. Dad, can I borrow the watch? Luke Watson, Junior Johnson, Mason 1. We've got Urin Eric, our watch friend from Germany. And we've got Mr. Paradigm. All right, guys, welcome and thank you for joining us. I always see your names in there. Even if I can't shout you all out individually, I appreciate every one of you. Okay, myth, luxury watches require expensive service every 2 years. Reality, although many brands continue to quote the 24-month figure, modern watches rarely require such frequent attention. Luxury watch service is expensive. Anticipate 3-figure charges in US dollars for simple watches that retail for under $10,000. Expect 4-figure service charges for complicated watches or those that retail for over $10,000. That said, 5 to 10 years is the typical service interval for a modern watch. Major brands such as Omega and Rolex now offer 5-year warranty. Thanks to the precedent set by these bellwether manufacturers, 5 years is becoming an industry standard. This is a good cue regarding service intervals because no watch should require a complete overhaul to ensure its function while still under warranty. If warranty is 5 years, there's no question and no reason the watch should need service at least every 5 years, never at least every 2. Even when it gets to be decades old, that still obtains. Service your watch every 5 to 10 years. Moreover, Rolex, I'm not spilling any beans here, this is from their website, has said that their guidance is for a 10-year service interval under correct usage conditions. So 10 years is pretty impressive, and that's going to save you an awful lot of money versus servicing your watch 5 times in that period. So 5 to 10 is the real deal. Also, many luxury watch brands owned by wristwatch powerhouse Richemont Group now offer 8-year warranties. Oris, a medium-sized brand that serves the entry-level price point of the luxury market, offers 10-year warranties on many of its affordable watches. Finally, modern manufacturing techniques, greater precision in manufacturing, and synthetic lubricants like that lovely can of escapement grease obviate the diva-like maintenance requirements that applied to watches for most of the 20th century. We're in a different time and a different world. If a collector has qualms about allowing 5 to 10-year intervals between service, local watchmakers can perform non-invasive tests to assess basic mechanical integrity. Functional factors including water resistance, timing accuracy, and balance amplitude can all be assessed using basic equipment without opening the watch. Watches under 5 years old should not struggle to pass this battery of cheap tests. Okay, wrist shots number 2. Kate Mancuso, wife of Tim, both good friends of the brand. She shared her new Omega Seamaster Aquaterra Summer Blue from Govberg. Thank you so much for trusting our extended company. Kai S is at the Rose Bowl with his JLC Master World Geographic Travel Watch. That's a rare piece. Abdul R of Germany shares his Tim Masso timeout hat. By the way, guys, more Tim Masso accessories on the way. And his Casio World Timer with bronze case mod. Mikhail rolls in his super cool Lucid Air Dream Edition with the IWC Portugueser Automatic 7 Days. Andy M returns from Korea and Singapore in style with his Dan Reuter DR02 chronograph. Guys, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com to see your watch on this box. By the way, I too am wearing my Dan Reuter DR02 today. Okay, 6 myths about luxury watches continued. Myths: smartwatches will kill the luxury watch. Reality: 9 years after the launch of the Apple Watch and nearly 2 decades after smartwatches as a genre debuted, there is no evidence, none, that any smartwatch will kill or replace or undermine luxury watches. When the Apple Watch was announced in 2014 at the tail end of the year, bombastic claims were made that luxury timepieces would suffer another quartz crisis, the name given to a traumatic period from the 70s and 80s when cheap electronic watches nearly exterminated the mechanical ones. While low-priced Swiss watches, take a good look at these price brackets, while low-priced Swiss watches, think hundreds of dollars, did suffer significant declines in sales volume due to the Apple Watch, true mechanical watches with basically wholesale prices starting in the 4-figure range, they have lost no ground. They have even gained throughout this period. For better or worse, smartwatches are like phones. Utilitarian, great for all kinds of connecting, and disposable. They count your steps, they log your sleep, and they give huge corporations another opportunity to mine your data while you are going about your life. It will know everything about which drive-thrus you visit, how much time you spend watching the tube. So basically, it's a little spy. But prestige, enduring appeal, durability, and community are beyond the reach even of the Apple Watch. No one requires a luxury watch to tell time in the same sense that nobody needs a Mont Blanc pen to write a letter. Cheaper options have existed for decades on both fronts. Luxury watches are generational products, often decorated by hand, nostalgic, and romantic. Central to the appeal of a luxury watch is permanence. Nobody envisions passing his iPhone 5 or his Apple Watch Series 3 to a grandchild at college graduation. But a luxury watch has the potential to be one of the 2 most enduring purchases that you will make in a lifetime alongside your home. And with a potential service life measured in hundreds of years, your luxury watch may even outlast your dream house. Final myth. Well, no, we got 2 more. No normal person can afford a luxury watch. Guys, many people of ordinary means can, in fact, afford a luxury watch. There's no doubt that buyers with limitless resources have access to limitless options. That's cool. We understand that. But legions of middle-class watch enthusiasts enjoy owning at least one fine watch. Brands such as Longines of Switzerland, Nomos Glashütte of Germany specialize in watches priced substantially below $10,000 across the board. More like Oris, Mido, Christopher Ward offer outstanding quality engineering and impressive design for well under $5,000. Even the hottest trend in modern watchmaking, independent creators, can be accessed thanks to sub-$10,000 watches from Reuter Watches of New York, Garrick of Norfolk, England, Sartori Biard of France, and the French-Swiss hybrid Reservoir that manufactures in Switzerland. There are many more, guys. You've got lots of options. Furthermore, pre-owned watches give buyers an opportunity to own more expensive machines after the initial depreciation hit. Think about this. A $14,300 Girard Perregaux Laureato becomes a sub-$10,000 used watch. Many available under 10 grand all day long. A $15,300 Blancpain 50 Fathoms, a high horology dive watch, becomes about an $11,000 used watch. Well, none of these are cheap, and I'm not going to make any bones about it. This is still a lot of money. You're still going to have to plan. As a guy who was once on the outside looking into the watch hobby, I realize 5, 10 grand, it's still a lot of bones. But here's the thing. They're accessible on middle-class budgets with some planning and resetting of priorities. Imagine a jet ski, a motorcycle, an overseas vacation. None of this seems completely impossible on average income, but all of these indulgences have the potential to cost more and endure less than a luxury watch purchase. Choosing a mid-size Ford Ranger pickup over a full-size F-150 can save you tens of thousands, and if you're not a laborer or constantly moving houses, it might even make more sense from a lifestyle standpoint. Plus, that four-door will open the door to a luxury watch with the cash you save. You could vacation domestically rather than going abroad. Whatever domestic is to you, whatever country you're in, it's going to be cheaper to stay in your country rather than go abroad. Save the difference. You could also, if you're an American male over a certain age, skip the midlife crisis Harley Davidson, or if you're like everyone else, earmark a tax return and own a watch that will last a lifetime. It's a very easily planned progression from the ambition to the day you take delivery and put the watch on your wrist. And as someone who once had to buy his watches on a military salary, I can tell you for a fact it's possible. All right, final myth. Luxury watches are handmade. Very, very few luxury watches are made entirely by hand. Even the ultra-low volume brands, including FP Journe, Greubel Forsey, and Bethune, incorporate machine fabrication of basic components before adding manual finish. In fact, Greubel Forsey, which is renowned for its use of premier-grade manual finish, still uses CNC and electrospark erosion, among other automated procedures. Greubel is now driving towards making 450 watches a year, but how many could it produce if it used handcrafted parts and hand tools exclusively? The answer is 2, maybe 3, maybe. Greubel Forsey's Handmade 1, a model launched in 2019, will always say on the case whether it's one of 2 or 3 made that year. This three-hand tourbillon, relatively simple by Greubel standards, soaks up 6,000 man-hours, which is about 3 times what Philippe Dufour used to spend on his Grand Sonnerie pocket watches. David Walter, a super low-volume scratch builder out of California, also works entirely with hand tools on his handful of watches per year, and a few of his kind do still work in the industry, but very rare. Brands like Rolex and Omega use nearly 100% automated, that is robot and machine fabrication, to deliver over 1 million watches per year between them. And the manufacturer's cost to build an industrialized product like an Hublot Big Bang, like let's take the original Big Bang right there, it's likely 10% or less of the retail price. This watch may cost hundreds of dollars to make. While it's an extreme example, other brands routinely charge 3 to 10 times their fabrication cost for new watches at retail price. Okay guys, viewer wrist shots number 3. Saurabh P. and Enzo the dog share mutual appreciation of the Rolex GMT Master 2 right there. Wesley G. and his Oris Big Crown Pro Pilot GMT explore Rocky Mountain National Park. T.I. shares his 1916 bought Omega Seamaster Aquaterra annual calendar while in the Hudson Valley. Thank you for trusting our company. Jeff R. posts the family. 2 Rolex, 1 Moonswatch out on vacation on the slopes. Chaitanya K. of Seattle is out in the Emerald Fields with his Grand Seiko Snowflake Spring Drive. We love them all. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see your analog on my digital. Macros and Watches Live, guys, it was coming by popular demand. I'm bringing back my detailed macro-level discussion of movements, cases, and dials. Super close imaging and live watches allow me to illustrate the topics often broached in the abstract on this show and my other platforms. Now you will see what I see through my eyes. Let's start with a perennial favorite of mine, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. You know it well, the reference 5015. This example in titanium has a display case back. So let's take a look. Finish is quite superior. To comparably priced divers from Audemars Piguet, look at those rounded bevels and the depth of the snailing across the bridges. Not Côte de Genève, snailing. Also, notice the bevel is rounded and mirrored, not a crude machine straight edge. While here you can see that the bevels are broad and mirrored across the board, you can also see that the jewel sinks have an internal partridge eye polish, which is quite nice. Now, the striping in this case is that snailing, so think a spiral eagle's eye-like pattern across the bridges. But note that the bevels converge in rounded fashion and that the chamfer has been drawn somewhat over the top of the bridge. You can also see how the corner is somewhat rounded off soft rather than sharp, that indicates to me that some sort of automated process is still involved. Likely the initial milling before some sort of handheld drill bit with a buffing tool is applied to deliver the mirrored shine. Okay, next. Philippe Dufour needs no introduction. I interviewed him at Dubai Watch Week in 2019, but frankly, he was a legend then. He was a legend 30 years ago. When was the last time you got a chance to see his work up close? Now, this Simplicity is one of the earliest he crafted. Model launched in 2000. This one was made around 2001. First 10 ever constructed. Background: Philippe Dufour was a watchmaker for, among others, Jaeger-LeCoultre. In his youth, he was a restoration specialist. He was born in the Vallée du Jeu. He practices in that tradition. In the 80s, he was making pocket watches by commission. Also in the early 90s, he made the first Grande Sonnerie pocket watch and wristwatch tandem, both made under one roof. And that was the first time anyone had built both by his own hand. He also made the Duality, which joined two escapements by a differential. Well, prompted by the Japanese market, he launched the Simplicity in both 34 and 37 millimeters in the year 2000. Now, its dial employs real rose-lathe guilloche, and he credits his supplier Metalem at the base of the dial. Rare transparency in this business. The case features welded-on lugs, a time-consuming, time-honored, and artisanal process that will always require slow going. But it's also the only way to get that super sharp crease between case and lug. And although the watch is only 34 millimeters in diameter, the watch has a caliber that measures 30 millimeters, which is exceptional given how well it fills that case back. Look at those Geneva waves. They create the impression of real depth. Those are the best stripes I've ever seen. Look at the devil's horns over the center wheel, the inward angles over the train bridge, and surprise, surprise, it's free sprung. But let's get closer. Anglage is stunning and singular. It's started by hand, it's finished by hand with gentian wood that Philippe actually gathers outside of his watchmaking atelier in the Vallée du Jeu. Now, the points, you could see they're as impressive as the inward angles. Jump back and forth between those. Those are the outward points, those are the inward angles, both the hallmark of the best hand finishing. Also, compare those points to the Blancpains right here. You can see the difference between true hand-finished points and merely hand-assisted points. The sharpness of the Dufour movement is what sets it apart. Now, as with the size of the movement, Dufour surprises by employing a contemporary free-sprung balance, which I did not expect to see, and an enormous free-sprung balance wheel at that, beating away at a stately 18,000 vibrations per hour. Look at the detail on the low-lying bridge for the escapement. This is below the balance cock, and the hairspring. Look how well that underlying bridge has been finished. In fact, you can see a little bit of the actual lever down at the bottom of the picture. Look, even that's been beveled and black polished on its top. Every detail finished to an excruciating level of exactitude. Côte de Genève are generic until you see them applied like this. They have a swashing three-dimensional kinetic appearance that is exclusive to only the best Geneva waves. Finally, look at the precision and intricacy of the hand-engraved solid gold builder's plate. One false move and you lose the component. All of this done on a micro level with a burin and a chisel. Very, very impressive. Now, let's look at something we don't often see. A flagship tourbillon from Arnold Son, a brand that probably never crosses your mind when you're considering high-end watchmaking. This is an example of the kind of excellence whose existence is all but unknown to collectors. None of this would be out of place on Holy Trinity or Lange. So the Arnold Son TBTE, that is True Beat Tourbillon Escapement, came out in 2015, 28 pieces in rose gold. Retail was over $160,000. Buy it pre-owned today, more like $60,000. That is great value. Dial side, you can see they give you all the action up front, showing the open barrel, the motion works, the drivetrain, and the tourbillon down at the bottom. Look how the base plate doubles as the base of the dial, and it's been cut on an engine. Look how half of the hands have been satinated off to the upper left. The tourbillon and its bridges are black polished. They reflect light only in 1 angle. Every other angle, they look black. The carriage itself also features black polish and micro bevels. Look at the stud holder that's been rounded off on its side by hand. Pocket watch style, wolf tooth gear profiles on the ratchet wheel are used to ensure ultra smooth winding on the barrel. For good measure, all major wheels on this watch are interior beveled, something even the Holy Trinity doesn't always give you. Also, on the reverse side, we have the same lathe-turned guilloche as on the dial, but with a different pattern this time. We also have a deadbeat secondary escapement you can see with a indexing wheel, a pallet jewel, and a linear spring. Beautifully made. It ensures that this watch has two heartbeats, one for the deadbeat, one for the tourbillon. And the counterweight, the deadbeat lever, is a tiny anchor made of steel that reminds us of Arnold's history in marine navigation. But look at the beveling and the satination and how they break cleanly despite the minuscule size of the surfaces being finished. The same is true for the keyless works, which is off to the other side. Steel parts immaculately decorated. Its millimeter level parts are satin brushed on their tops and beveled on their edges. Guys, thank you so much. Let's see what you've got from me. Wrist shots number 4. Jimmy Z of Toronto is in Japan for dinner with the latest edition of the Tudor Black Bay and his family. Kirk K is in Sayulita, Mexico with his Grand Seiko GMT SBGN 003. Looking good, guys. Stay warm. Wear sunscreen. Alan S. rolls with his strap-clad Omega Speedmaster in the BMW X5M competition. Shane P. captures his vintage People's Pro-Am golf watch with Pokemon in Hollywood, California. Warren sticks the landing and takes us home with 3 iconic pilot's watches by Omega, Breitling, and IWC. Guys, if you want to see your trio on this telly, contact me. I am always Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com. Thanks to everyone who joined in. Thank you to my crew and my live audience. It's always a pleasure to talk to a crowd. Time out, Tim out. Thanks for logging on.